Well, I suspect, everyone, that, well, maybe I'm projecting a little bit. I guess I've probably given, I don't know, 25,000, I don't know, 50,000 speeches or talks or conversations, commentary. Usually when I get a invitation, it said brief remarks. And they capitalize brief for me. But I will tell you, I'm having a difficult time. I'm having a difficult time accepting this. So I just hope you'll bear with me a little bit. Activity to take place. Possibly seeing some friends, people we don't know necessarily, comment on the size of the crowd. We've done it before. It's a ritual. Why do we do it? It's so difficult for us. Why do we do it? Because ritual, for human beings, is the conserver of values. Ritual enables us to reflect, even if momentarily, for brief moments, on who we are, and what we are, and why we live. We're the only species. Mochi and Kanoa can't do it. They just love us unreservedly. We're the only species that makes judgment on itself. The only species that knows that it's going to pass from this earth. And if we know we're going to pass from the earth, if we know we're going to die, that means we know we're going to live. And then how we live and who we are becomes very, very important. Because we're the only species that has to justify its existence. The only one who have to justify ourselves to ourselves. I can't think of anyone in my life that exemplified the values that he believed. It's so tough to live what you believe. It's so hard to be able to do that, to look yourself in the eye and say that you truly reflect the values you like to take. What Mike did is generous and loving and kind and generous again. I guess I do want to make it a celebration, because if I have to think about what constitutes our humanity and the life that is led, I think about Mike, and I have a smile on my face. And so I have an opportunity as governor to do a couple of things that simply aren't available to anybody else in the room. Do proclamations. Yeah. I can do certificates. And right up until December 1st, nobody can stop me. And so I have something entitled today, In Memoriam. And I'm doing this in my role as governor on behalf of all the people of Hawaii. Our sincere condolences to the family and friends of Mike Wagner. One of Mike's lifelong gifts was the unique way he saw the world, in which he paired a genius for communication and collaboration. He made his mark in the advertising field in Hawaii and beyond. Numerous awards. With his keen eye and ready laugh, he also served as a valued mentor for generations of professionals in Hawaii. His gentle compassion made him a lifelong friend to animals, including his parrot, Hidamame, and the beloved Mochi.
Who is right there?
Ah, there's Mochi right now. Good. Hi, Mochi. I almost didn't recognize you without your wheels. He was a thoughtful advocate for equality. That's about as mild a way as I could put it. and civil rights. His kind and creative spirit reminds us of a quotation. And I thought, and I remembered, I'm sure everybody here heard, it's only advertising. So I went and looked for one of the philosophers of advertising, Leo Burnett, to see if there was anything that he might have said that I thought would be appropriate for Mike. And this was it. The work of an advertising agency is warmly and immediately human. It deals with human needs, wants, dreams, and hopes. Its product cannot be turned out on any assembly line. Mike leaves then behind a memorable example of how to live a passionate and considered and committed life, pursuing and sharing uncommon dreams and vision without ever losing perspective. To his Ohana and friends, I wish all of you his strength and peace as we celebrate his life in this difficult time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Governor.
Thank you, Jim.
Hearing all the good cheer, quite honestly, that is in this room. So, with that, let me read the following. Sadly, the circumstances of Mike's death remind us that sometimes we don't know friends and even family nearly as well as we could or should. Mike, as we know now, was remarkably adept at keeping us, his work family, and all of his friends, from knowing when he was hurting. We saw only his generosity, his sense of humor, his innate sense of fairness, his clear and openly expressed love of life. Work Mike spent a lot of hours outside the office, scouting, shooting on location, working on post-production, and a lot of you will remember how much he loved traveling to the mainland where at client expense, we've got more than a few clients here. He could occasionally enjoy a free meal at an otherwise unaffordable restaurant. But the bulk of Mike's working life did take place at his desk in front of a Mac. They got bigger and bigger over the years. In the open but nonetheless tiny corner of the world where he worked his magic and entertained us congenially and with impish wit. Thinking about Mike today, he really, impish seems pretty fair description. He entertained us with stories about his childhood. He once confessed to the local priest, was it parish priest? Father, I have sinned. I have peed in the prairie. Chicago at that time was still a prairie, and Mike did a no-no and felt badly about that for years, I think. He entertained us with daily showings of movie trailers. He was passionate about film, as most of you know, and we look forward eagerly to his annual top 10. More entertainment from his puckish political asides, humanist, progressive thinker, and measured gay activist. He once personally delivered the finger to state senatorial candidate and arch homophobe Mike Gabbard in a dignified way, of course. Always dignified, Mike. We also knew Mike by his workday personal habits and grooming. Many of you, when you think of Mike, will remember how dignified and impeccable he was. But the corner of the world that was his desk and his computer was anything but. His keyboard, for example, was a catch-all for cookie crumbs and dust bunnies, and the floor, which is worn thin from years of heavy-footed toe tapping, and which now has a huge tea stain from me, was his file drawer littered with comps and magazines. We forgive you, Mike. We know the office was your sanctuary. We learned some Wagnerian secrets simply by listening to him answer the phone. Every now and then it would ring and he'd say, "I have to take this. It's the governor." And it was the governor, because Mike was till the end the official state dog sitter. We also felt Mike's presence in every corner of the agency because he was literally responsible for its design, from the logo to the layout to the furniture and the decor. And we all love it, even though some of it's a little frayed at the moment. Anyway, all in all, Mike spent about 45,672 hours at his desk, give or take a couple. And by his own measure, he loved coming to work and spending quality time with the family with his work upon it. I knew him for 41,520 of those hours, and in the end, he was more than just a creative partner and dear friend. He was also at times a surrogate father. You'll forgive me, it's Walter. What do I always tell you? It's only advertising. I can't do near justice to the voice which we all miss. But I heard that often over the years, that it's only advertising, delivered with Phil Jackson's sternness, and with that remarkable voice of his. And his mentoring helped me maintain my sanity, and does to this day. We all miss that voice, don't we? And, yeah.
Yep.
So maybe in the ocean we can hear it. A side note, a group of agency women once got together and with that tall, dignified, basso profundo presence awarded Mike the title of Melissy Man We'd Most Like to Sleep With. And Mike, as you can imagine, responded with his usual eyes wide shut laughter. And not all of us were happy with that. In the past few years, you could see Mike changing. I mean, he was steady as they go. But we began to see changes. So much so, in fact, that he acquired a couple of new nicknames, and some of you may or may not have heard. There was Feisty Mike, that was Fikey, and there was Psycho Mike, and that was Psyche. And we didn't see a whole lot of him, but he did appear from time to time. It was really a pleasure to see him reveal that edge, which no doubt was there all the time. And it was Fikey who was the one that began to end our brainstorms with the, I can't do the voice, but again, you imagine that deep voice saying, "Just get me the copy." But Fikey and Psyche never ever obscured the kind, gentle, gracious, beautiful Mike that we all remember today. To wit, this summer, the MVNP family was shocked by the news that a young intern had taken his life. It was devastating news that left the agency saddened, dazed, and confused. Mike, who was, we know now, wrestling the demons of depression, responded characteristically. He went home, he put his dog Mochi back in a suitcase and smuggled him into the office. Animals are banned in the office. And Mike brought Mochi to cheer people up. And for all of you who know Mochi, the two-wheeled French bulldog, those smiles and good cheer were a foregone conclusion. It did cheer people up. A single act, that was a single act, that now and in retrospect was not simply kind and generous. It was completely selfless. It was Mike, I think as we all knew him, easing our burdens while keeping his own troubles to himself. Not a whisper of ego. That was our Mike. Mochi in a rolling suitcase was a gift that reminds us that we all have the ability, perhaps the obligation, to be as good as he was. As good a son, as good a brother, as good a friend, as good a colleague, as good a human being. Mike, you are the very soul of kindness. Aloha until we meet again. And now, the governor's going to say
things I wanted to say, but my youngest daughter, Megan, wrote this letter, and it couldn't have been said any better. It goes, "My dear Uncle Mike, how do I begin to tell you the things I never actually told you, but always knew in my heart? Although I always told you I loved you when saying goodbye, I now feel those words seem insignificant, as they do not adequately express the love, respect, and admiration I have for you. Within this crazy, hectic world we live in, it is so easy to take the ones you love and the time that you share with them for granted. As to my childhood memories extend, you always lived in Honolulu, Hawaii. Although I am so happy you got to spend the majority of your days in one of the most beautiful places on earth, the selfish part of me wishes you lived closer, so I could have gotten to know you even better. Growing up as a young girl, the earliest memory I have with you was sitting at Grandma and Grandpa's breakfast bar, where you sketched pictures of Kelly, Jimmy, and myself. Those very pictures are still hanging on Grandma and Grandpa's fridge and bring a smile to my face every day or every time I look at them. Even as a young girl, I knew your raw artistic talent was inspiring and extraordinary. You had an uncanny ability to see beauty in the most extraordinary subject, whether it be your oil paintings, sketches, photographs, graphic designs, or video production. Your artwork was all equally breathtaking. In the days after your passing, I found solace in reading all of the beautiful messages from many souls you have touched throughout your life. It was not surprising at all to see the respect and admiration people felt for you. The touching stories shared of not only your rare talent and work ethic, but also your fierce devotion to your friends and family. Uncle Mike, the love people felt for you was endless. I wish you could have felt that love in your darkness of times. I wish you were not so good at hiding the sadness. I wish you had spoken to just one person, so we could have helped shine light on the abundant blessings that you are made up of. I wish I could hear your boisterous laugh, hug, and tell you I love you just one more time. But most of all now, I wish you eternal happiness and comfort. Please give Abby girl a big kiss and kiss from all of us. I look forward to seeing you both again someday. Love, Megan.
I'm Penny. I'm Mike's baby sister. And I want to share with you what it was like growing up with Mike. I have a brother that's 8 years older than me. His name is Jim. Michael Freund, friend for short. Mike was 5 years older than me. And growing up, I always knew that my two brothers were different. And being a little girl, I never really understand what that difference was. My brother Jim was outside playing baseball and hockey in the backyard. I was out there with my brother. I was athletic myself. My brother Mike was inside the house painting and drawing and reading. And he was an introvert. I, fortunately, am not an introvert because I can get up here and speak to you. And something I really didn't understand what the entire difference was. In high school, I was a senior in 1978. Yeah, I'm 54. And we all seniors had to take a class called Contemporary Problems. And in that class, one of contemporary society's problems I learned was homosexuality. Wow, wait a minute. Maybe that's why my brother Mike seems different. And so I came home and I asked my mom, Mom, is Mike homosexual? And she didn't want to answer that. Well, why do you ask? And I had to explain, I had this class and I learned about it. And everything seemed to make sense to me at that time. And she said, well, yes, he was. But see, in the 70s, I want to say how happy I am to see that people are less judgmental. They're still judgmental, but compared to the 70s, things have gotten better. Mike always felt loved and unjudged here, and that's why Hawaii was his home. It's why he loved being here. In our family growing up, we did not say, I love you. With my husband and my sons, I make sure I tell them all the time because I didn't get that growing up. I don't tell my brother I love him. I didn't tell Mike I loved him, except for one time. Every time he would come into Chicago, we would go see movies. He would take my mom and dad, and we went to see Milk. Harvey Milk was an alderman in San Francisco. And I sat through the movie and I cried. Because I didn't know what it was like growing up to be gay and the pain that you felt. And after the movie was over, I asked him, I said, is that what it was like for you growing up? And he said, yes. And I hugged him, and I told him I loved him. And so, Mike, I hope you know now how much everybody loves you and our family, even though we didn't say it. We love you. If you are standing next to somebody that you love, please give them a hug right now and tell them you love them. And if you're not standing next to someone you love when you go home, please tell them you love them. Okay? Not the love ya. I love you. Okay? It's important. I'm so glad I at least had that one opportunity to tell him. Thank you everybody for coming. It means so much to us. Thank you so much for taking Mochi. Thank you to MVNP for planning all of this and inviting everybody. Our family loves you. Thank you, everyone.
Debbie Keith, Mike's dearest friend, valuable to our whole ordeal, we thank you. And Walter, his work wife, or husband, depending on who was feistier that day. And Carol Iwata, one of Mike's closest and longest held friends. And Amos Konamori, who was also a great friend. And Terry Hunt, Mike's dear friend and first partner. We all loved you, Mike. I would like to thank everybody else, even neighbors across the street, people who walk their dogs in the neighborhood. They're all heartbroken. And they all worry about Mochi. They were wondering where Mochi was. They were very heartbroken to hear what happened to Mike. Many of us cared for and loved Mike in our own way. And any of you who knew him shared some wonderful stories and enjoyed great laughs together, I know that. Many of you appreciated his intellect, his sharp political perceptions, his fashion sense, and his gourmand sensibilities, as well as his deep voice and great laugh and his good look. And we all know his great eye and capabilities in art direction and his unique skill with something simple like an iPhone and producing unbelievable photos evoking beauty, awe, and emotion. Mike loved Hawaii. He understood what aloha meant. He understood the significance of ohana. And I believe it is important for all of us to remember the power of aloha and ohana. Many of you know that I was born and raised in Colorado and have lived in many great American cities and German cities. San Francisco, Chicago, Boston, New York, Heidelberg, and Berlin. My father's 100 years old. He's from Kona. He lives there with my 88-year-old mother. But it's Mike who taught me about Hawaii. When we drive cars, we let people out of the Safeway parking lot, out of the gas station. You give a wave to somebody who lets you out, lets you pull out of your driveway. We know that. Mike taught me
Not
this.
like Chicago.
And you never honk your horn. It's tough.
Yeah.
And along the way, because we were late,
Or give the.
I'm guilty. What makes Hawaii unique from the mainland? What makes Honolulu unique from cities like New York, London, Frankfurt, or Zurich, regarding our personal interactions at work, home, or play, is aloha and ohana, treating one with love, respect, and family. That is the Hawaii way. And when we lose sight of these two important facets, which makes Hawaii special, we lose the fundamental reason many of you have chosen to call Hawaii home. Aloha and ohana. Okay, Mike could be a rebel at times, no race spooner. Maybe no, yeah, maybe had one aloha shirt. So he always was doing his own thing. No Crocs, no flashy bling, no brand labeling. But his home was a beauty, aloha style, the right way, no plastic flowers and cherries. I will dearly miss my great love. Oh yes, we had our ups and downs, like all couples after 20 years. I want you all to know Mike was a kind, patient, caring, loving, and sweet man to me. And I always remember him, love him. I missed you, buddy.
I moved to Chicago, we really stayed really close. So I'd like to read a poem from him. It was written in 1862, and the poem is called Remember. I hope I can get through it. I'm really nervous. Remember me when I'm gone far away into the silent land, when you can no more hold my hand, nor I half turn to go, yet turning stay. Remember me when no more, day by day, you tell me of our future that you planned. Only remember me. You understand it will be late to counsel, then or pray. Yet if you should forget me for a while, and afterwards remember, do not grieve. For if the darkness and corruption leave a vestige of thoughts that once I had, better by far you should forget and smile, than you should remember and be sad. When I heard that Mike had passed, one of our things that I think most of us thought of is that he really loved Mochi. Where was Mochi going? And I know that he has a wonderful family, so I'm really, really, really grateful for that. But then I found this poem, and I thought, I gotta read this. This is A Dog's Plea. Treat me kindly, my beloved friend, for no heart in all the world is more grateful for kindness than the loving heart of me. Do not break my spirit with a stick, for though I should lick your hand between blows, your patience and understanding will more quickly teach me the things you would have me learn. Speak to me often, for your voice is the world's sweetest music, as you must know by the fierce wagging of my tail, which it doesn't have, when your footsteps fall upon my waiting ear. Please take me inside when it is cold and wet, for I am a domesticated animal, no longer accustomed to bitter elements. I ask no glory than the privilege of sitting at your feet beside the hearth. Keep my pan filled with fresh water, for I cannot tell you when I suffer thirst. Feed me clean food that I may stay well, to romp and play, and do your bidding, to walk by your side and stand ready, willing, and able to protect you with my life, should your life be in danger. And my friend, when I am very old and I no longer enjoy good health, hearing, and sight, do not make heroic efforts to keep me going. I am not having any fun. Please see that my trusting life is taken gently. I shall leave this earth, knowing with my last breath I draw, that my faith was always safest in your hand. When this all happened, and Penny, his sister, and the father were here, I would call his mom every day just to make sure she was okay and how she was doing. And she would inevitably always say, I can't believe Mike did this. I can't believe Mike did this. And I said to her, if Mike had thought what, how you guys would feel, I don't think he'd do it. But he was in so much psychic pain, he just had no choice. And I said, since he is, he's at peace, and you know that he's looking down on you. And she said, yes, I'll think of Mike always smiling down on me. And so every day, when I would call her, I would always say, remember, Sense, Mike is smiling down on you. And I just like to think that today, that's what he's doing for us. Thank you.
Mark this day down. I've got it on video here.
Terry, do you want to come, Paul? Paul? No? Yes? Is it too much weight?
Yeah, I just don't. I'll say goodbye. That's okay. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I don't have my glasses on. Now it's counting. Okay.
Hold on. Okay, one. I'm gonna take a picture. Okay? And now you're gonna dump a little?
What?
Are we gonna dump a little now?
No, he's going to dump a little and then I'm going to... So you're left half. I'm going to dump some flowers.
I'm filming.
same time. Yeah. Well, one by one, I'll help pour some in. Can you come over and touch it? Is that good?
Yeah. You guys do it.
So
Can you take a picture of
Jim,
Bill